is the League for Social Justice. Our focus is to table the plight of the people and discuss these concerns in the town hall format. And this is why we are here today. So for today's meeting, a few Nigerians who themselves are nation builders with a track record of promoting national unity have been selected to help spearhead this discussion. Our diverse audiences from around the world, some of whom have logged on here and others on Facebook and YouTube, will have the opportunity to ask some questions and I'll briefly state their views. Well, without wasting time, let's dive into it. It is no longer news that on March 1, 2023, INEC declared Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu the president-elect of Nigeria. After having received the most votes of all the ballot cast, this is amid controversies surrounding their conduct of the election. Among the irregularities that was reported are voter suppression, violence in precincts, polling stations and booths, intimidation of lawful voters, ballot rigging and snatching, and widespread electoral malpractices. The chief of them was INEC's inability to upload election results to its billion naira IRF platform and election servers in real time. All this bring rightfully the question whether the result announced by INEC is credible. However, in INEC's defense, they stated that the system had a glitch on that fateful day, which impacted its ability to upload results in real time, as it was required to. The agency claimed that in spite of the irregularities, which they themselves admitted to, the result is accurate and consistent with the vote cast on February 25th, 2023. This led it to declare a winner in the early hours of March 1st. The time it chooses to declare the winner has been criticized by many. That's something we'll get into later. Soon after this announcement, the opposition immediately filed suit challenging the results. This led us to this critical month of May. The inaugural committee set up to spearhead the inauguration is already in high gear to ensure a smooth, seamless transition on May 29. Law enforcement is also on high alert to ensure the swearing in is not interrupted or truncated. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who is tasked by the Constitution to administer the oath of office, has not indicated unwillingness to participate. He is also ready to do his job. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, the tribunal adjudicating the non-conformity of the election has started meeting, and proceedings are very much underway. This issue is highly adversarial, as we all can see, and Nigerians are vehement in their support or against Mr. Tinubu, while his victory to his claim to presidency is still up in the air. Back in March, if you recall, Mr. Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed, the running mate of Mr. Obi, the Labour Party candidate, stated in no uncertain terms on Channels Television that democracy will end on May 29, 2023, if Tinubu is sworn in as president. He claimed that Tinubu had not met the constitutional provision to be declared winner of the February 25 poll. Other notable persons and individuals have also shared the same views. The country is obviously split down the middle, as we can tell. Someone tried to, okay, thank you. 1 second, folks, just want to, all right. So as you can see, the nation is obviously split down the middle concerning this matter. Some said Tinubu won and should be sworn in. Others who voted against him also share the same position, while some outrightly oppose his inauguration. And this is why we are here today. Joining us to discuss these matters and others are Honorable Patience Ndidiki, the former presidential aspirant and the former chair of Nigeria in the Diaspora, USA. Dr. Orobosa Agbonkpolo is a New York State anesthesiologist and a social justice advocate. Prince Adewale Adebayo is a former Social Democratic Party presidential candidate and founder of Kaftan Television. And Dr. Usman Bugaje is a former member of House of Representatives and a special advisor to former President Atiku Abubakar. I welcome you all, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin, I want to quickly ask that as you come in, please, we ask that you mute your phone. Also, there will be opportunity for questions. If you're in the place that you can speak, you can easily just, okay. Are we still having problem with audio? Can everyone hear me?
I can hear though. I can hear you.
Okay. Why are some saying there's a problem with audio? Okay. First of all, let me just ask, Madam, Honorable Madam Patience, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, very
Glad
well.
you can hear me. Okay. So once again, let me introduce the guests, and Madam Patience, I'll be calling on you first. So please get ready. So we have Madam Patience Ndidiki, who is a former presidential aspirant. Dr. Orobosa Agbonkpolo, a New York State anesthesiologist. Prince Adewale Adebayo, who is also a presidential candidate. And Dr. Usman Bugaje, who is a former House of Rep member and a special advisor to President Abubakar Atiku. But first, let me turn to you, Madam Key. While we wait, I'm not sure, is Dr. Usman here? I don't see him. And Prince Adewale. Please, when you come in, okay.
Of course, I'm here, but you asked us to mute. So
okay, okay. Who is speaking, sir? Let me just see if we can change your name so that way we can, it says 1+. Let me see.
My name is Adewale Adebayo.
Okay, Prince Adewale, okay. We'll change your name. Osage, please make sure that you change Prince Adewale's name so that we can address him properly. All right, Madam Key. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Labode, for having me.
Yes, ma'am. First, let me just ask you, why should Bola Tinubu be sworn in as president? And why shouldn't he be sworn in as president?
Yeah, I want to start.
As you can say, it's very contentious now, and the situation is split down the middle. Some people are opposed, some people are against. We only have a few days left. So why shouldn't he be sworn in?
I want to start by thanking you for the opportunity to be here, and also thanking Nigerians for tuning in. This is about all of us. Thank you for the organization for organizing this great a platform for us to talk about things that concerns us. And I also want to appreciate my fellow panelists, speakers that are here. on short notice. We're all here to see what we can put together as a Nigerian, as good Nigerians. Once again, thank you, Dr. Bano, you and your group for putting this and giving us the opportunity to be here. Yeah, going back to your question, we should all understand that, Nigeria has been on a crossroad, and we've been talking about this for a very long time. And the aftermath of the 2023 election has brought us to the crucial crossroads. Nigerians saying that the election was marred with irregularities, violence, fraud, malpractices. If in the end we go ahead and the Nigerian system go ahead and swear in Ahmed Tinubu as the president with all this contention, then I think it's going to, personally, I think it's going to be a problem. For the people, there's going to be a lot of mistrust for the system. Democracy hinges on a fair and free election, as well as the trust of the people. So if the people are not convinced, and I think I want Nigerians to know that this is not about, at the road where we are right now, this is not about personalities. This is not about being friends to someone. This is about what affects us, the aftermath of an election. We should remember the lessons from 2014 till 2019. We all thought we had a messiah, but this is where we are. Now that those who felt, the election didn't go the way it was supposed to go, and they're in court, that's the right thing to do. If INEC bring in all the materials that they are asked to bring in, just for them to show transparency in the system, that would be a great one. If the judiciary system actually, hammer on it that everything that needs to be in place is in place, and all parties are playing by the rule, and there's no partiality, then that will be good for the Nigerian system. But if otherwise, that Tinubu is sworn in without the judiciary system and INEC doing what they need to do for the Nigerian people to know that, oh yes, he won. If he wins, if he won, why not? We go ahead and swear him in. But if the judiciary system did not, obey their own rule, their own law that they have set, and go ahead and swear Tinubu in without judiciously making the Nigerian people, home and abroad, know that he actually won the election, then that's going to be a problem for the nation. Already we have insecurity, we have this poverty, unemployment. It's not going to get better because baggage in, baggage out. There's no how you can, put in someone who we believe, enforced himself. This is about the selection and a lot of things that happened before and after this election. We go ahead and do things against the law, and we expect that in the long run, this person is going to come out as a good leader. I personally, I don't think, it would be fair and good for the Nigerian people. So.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. I get your point here, but the area that I want to zoom in on is Prince Adebayo, please, I want you to chime in here. The Constitution directly stipulates that the current president must remain in office until another be sworn in. So that means the judiciary have the right to say, or the government have the right to say, Mr. Buhari, you can remain in office while we adjudicate this matter, since it's a very sensitive matter, and which determines the credibility of whether Mr. Tinubu actually won this election. And the Constitution says the current president must remain until another is sworn in. So does that mean that Buhari should remain after the 29 while the court adjudicate this matter? Prince Adewale, please. You are muted. I think you are muted. Osage, can you unmute him?
Give me, I'm unmuted because I think I could be interrupted. Give me 3 minutes to get the Wi-Fi.
Okay, sure. You do that. I'm going to quickly call in on Dr. Francis. Dr. Abukolo, are you there? You can unmute yourself. Thank you, sir. Okay. The issue here is whether Bola Tinubu should be sworn in or not sworn in, whether he should, the court should stop the inauguration while they adjudicate the matter. Should the court do that? And if you have a video, you may turn on your video, sir, if you are in a place you can speak with video.
Thank you very much, Dr. Obano, and thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I came in late. I want to go back a little bit and state, at the risk of sounding redundant, there is no guarantee what type of president anybody can turn into. What somebody is before swearing in does not actually predict what the person will be after they take office. Therefore, if Mr. Peter Obi were to win the election, despite what his track record makes the Nigerian people to believe that there will be an Eldorado, that may not be. Nor can one say that if Mr. Tinubu becomes president, it will be as bad as we predict he will be. So I want the discussion to not be based on what a person can do with the office, but rather to make sure that for now and forever, the Nigerians are entitled to sound, credible institutions whose functions are essentially to make sure that the people get the dividends of good governance. Now, it is an aberration what has happened all along, but especially the brazen impunity and taking laws into their hands, what happened in 2023. There is nothing unique about the PIVAS system in Nigeria. Turkey just had an election and the results are this. They came out within 48 hours and it's the same exact system that Nigeria uses. So there's absolutely no reason for the Constitution to state that a president who was selected in the most ill manner should be sworn in. The Constitution should have rightly stated, as happens in most decent societies, that all the challenges, all the contestations of an election be settled before the swearing-in ceremony. In America, the election takes place in November, the first Tuesday of November, and the swearing-in of the president takes place in February. That's a lot shorter than from February in Nigeria to May in Nigeria. Yet in America, even in Kenya, all disputes relating to the election are settled between when the election takes place and when they're swearing. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't evoke confidence. You can't carry people along when the person that has been sworn in he's still being challenged. So that's where the problem is. No matter what we say here, that is where it should be remedied. The Constitution should clearly state that all matters, all controversies, all contestations surrounding an election should be settled before swearing in. And February to March is plenty of time, in my opinion.
Dr. Robusta, the process of adjudicating election matters is never quick in the Nigerian context, as you well know this. It's no way they're going to investigate election malpractices in a month or two. And usually when election cases get brought to the court, it takes months and months. The minimum is a year, and it can even go longer than that. So are you saying we should have President Buhari remain in office?
No.
Why this is adjudicated? Or what do we do in the interim?
No. What I'm saying is, in Kenya, the disputes of the presidential election outcome was settled within 14 days. In America, you have between November and January to settle it. My point is that constitution that says that in Nigeria, we can keep contesting the election results up to 1 year is an aberration. And that's where the problem is. How do you carry on challenging an election when somebody has been sworn in and he has all the instruments of power and government to suppress anything that is going on? It is an aberration. It serves no good purpose. The people who are aggrieved will never come around, whether you swear in, what you have created is a state of perpetual tension and distrust. That's the problem. Is the constitution should be amended so that all of these things we are talking about, the submission of a protest or rejection of an election is going to the tribunal. All of them can be settled within 60 days. It doesn't have to go on ad infinitum as in Nigeria.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Prince Adebayo, I'm glad to see that you are fully settled now. What do you make of this? I mean, how do you interpret all this? Should we wait? Do we have time to amend the constitution? What do we do? Should Tinubu just be sworn in and the Nigerians who are agitating just lick their wound? What do we do here?
Well, you see, every discussion should have a framework. And when a question is posed, you will use the theoretical or philosophical framework to know whether the question is competent or not, and whether you can provide answers, because is the question just a rhetorical question, or it's a question that is genuinely looking for an answer? Because there is nothing new here. One, the politics has ended. The law has taken effect. So there's a difference between what is politics and what is constitutional law. So in politics, your opinion matters, your preferences matter, and if you're not happy about an issue, you can make an advocacy. But in a constitutional matter, you are just bound to follow the law. That was why Trump and his vice president had a problem when Biden was declared, because while Pence was trying to follow the law, Trump was continuing his politics. So if I come and speak here as a politician, then I will say Tinubu is my opponent, and why should he be sworn in? I have complaints. You must have read a few of my public statements about the election. I have many complaints about it. I have complaints all over. Someone like Patience Key has been having complaints right from the primaries, not even waiting for the election. So, but all of that is not relevant. If INEC had pronounced Omoyele Sowore as the president-elect, or pronounced Kwankwaso, or pronounced Kola Abiola or pronounce Peter Obi, the law will take the same effect. This is our law. Our law is that when a presidential election or governorship election or legislative houses elections are conducted and a winner is declared, is given a certificate by INEC, it triggers the right of the people who complain to go to court. It triggers the right of the person elected to be sworn in. It is not negotiable. So in 1999, Olufalaye went to court against Obasanjo. Obasanjo was sworn in. In 2003, Buhari went to court. Other people went to court. Obasanjo was sworn in, and we continue. In 2007, there were even more hue and cry than now, or against Yar'Adua's election. Yar'Adua was sworn in. Buhari went to court. Atiku went to court. That same 2003, let me go back. Peter Obi contested. Ngige was sworn in. Peter Obi went to court. It was 2 years later that Peter Obi was declared by the court. So in 1979, earlier, Shagari was declared. The others didn't go to court. Zeke, Aminu Kano, the rest of them said we are not interested in going to court. But Awolowo went to court. But in that time, and that's why I don't want people to be going to Kenya, going all over the place. Come back to Nigeria. We have done it before. When Shagari was declared, Awolowo went to court. However, the court handled the matter and finished it before Shagari was sworn in. And that was because of the procedure used at that time under FEDECO. Under the procedure we have been using since 1999, it is pediatric to be raising the issue of whether Tinubu should be sworn in. Tinubu deserves to be sworn in under our law. Just like if I was the one declared. No matter where somebody's right to be sworn in is constitutionally guaranteed, despite the complaint of anybody. So you like him, you don't like him, the election was free and fair or not, irregularity or not, our law says when somebody is declared, he has a right to be sworn in. The election petition have zero bearing. The election petition tribunal does not have the power, even if they wanted to do so. Even if you take 5 SDP members, or you take 5 Labour members, or you take family members of Atiku Abubakar, and you put them in the tribunal, once they start opening the law, they will realize they have no power. They have no power. So you can go to the tribunal and make an application before them. They don't have jurisdiction to pronounce on it. Once a person is declared by INEC, that person will be sworn in. So that is the tribunal doesn't have the power. The only thing tribunal can do is, that is to say, the tribunal has no interlocutory powers to stop anything. The tribunal only has the power to pronounce on the petition and say, the petition has merit, this person was not qualified to contest, the petition has merit, this person has not been lawfully declared, I remove some of his votes, I add some votes to the other person should be given certificate, or the court could say the whole election is a mess, go back and do another one. Those are the powers, because these people who are in this tribunal are just like you and me. They don't have special powers. They only have powers when they are sitting as the tribunal. And their powers are limited by the powers conferred on the tribunal. So even if they listen to you, let's say shortly before they start sitting, even if they listen to you and you complain, you show them a video, evidence, and everything, they have no power to stop.
Prince,
that's the law. That's different from the politics now.
But Prince, where do we go from here? We're in a situation, an election will be fraught with so much malpractice, ballot snatching, vote manipulation, and the agency that is purportedly supposed to run a credible election announced the results in spite of all this widespread, verifiable malpractice. And then you tell those who lose, go to court. And they have to spend money, they have to adjudicate the matter for 2 years. Is that
the matter will not be adjudicated for 2 years. I want us to speak to current law. There is no way you can adjudicate matter for 2 years. The constitutional limit is 6 months. So anybody whose case is still pending in the tribunal on the 180th day, until the 180th day, that day, the court has no jurisdiction anymore. So if Labour Party, PDP, anybody who has a case before this tribunal somehow plays around, get distracted on the 180th day, if it is the second witness who has testified, the case ends that day. On the 181 day, the court cannot sit again for the matter. They are constitutionally barred.
Okay.
They cannot sit again.
Okay.
So that is the law.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. I
And
want to
then
quickly...
when they appeal to the Supreme Court, you have only 60 days. On the 61st day of your petition being filed in the Supreme Court appeal, the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction. So if you come on that day, it ends.
Now you have 6 months, like you said. You have another 60 days in the Supreme Court. That takes you to how many months? 9 months or 8 months? You see, we are already approaching 1 year.
We used to do 2 years. We used to do 2.5 years. We used to do 3 years. So now we have reduced it to 6 months. And let me say something clearly. The 6 months is not required that you must have spent all the 6 months. You can do an election petition in 2 weeks if you want. You can do it in 2 months.
But traditionally, it has taken way longer than that.
No, what you need to know is this. Let me tell you from my experience as a lawyer who has been doing it, what kills petition you start from frivolous petitions. So everybody who has contested an election is being told that go to court. So it's not every infringement that you will succeed in court. Some infringement you won't succeed in court. So you will know, like maybe Patience Key will tell you, when she had her primary election, she's a very honest person, so she won't tell you any lies.
Yeah, I'm going to bring that on in a minute. Yeah.
There were all sorts of irregularities, but it's not every irregularity that will worry you, worry a journalist, worry anybody that worries the court. There are some things I've heard you mention in your intro that if you say it to a court, the court will say, oh, sorry to hear that, but the law doesn't allow me to talk on that. So that's number one. Number two is that study the petitioners themselves. You will see that whether due to their fault or due to none of their faults, the law gives them 21 days within which to file a petition. Okay. And now find out on which day they file the petition. That's an indication to you as to whether you can finish hearing it quickly or not, because the petitioner is the initiator of the suit. And if the petitioner is given 21 days and it takes 19 days to file, it shows to you that the petitioner himself is not in a hurry because it took all his time. So, and then when you go to court now, one last thing before you go, when you go to court now, you will see that in all the hearing up to this moment, none of the adjournment has been at the instance of the court. The adjournment has always been at the instance of the petitioners.
Of the petitioners. So
you follow that, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for that clarification. I see Dr. Bokolo hands. I think he might have a rejoinder on that. Before I call on Dr. Bokolo, I just want to make sure that is Dr. Husman in the house. I just want to make sure I acknowledge him.
Dr. Bogaje.
Bogaje, right. Is he in the house? I don't see him. Dr. Bogaje, are you on? Okay. All right. Now, folks, you can post your comments and questions in the chat box, and it will be read for the interlocutors to answer. Before I call on Madam Key again, Dr. Francis, I see you have your hands up, and I'm sure you want to be able to respond to what Prince Adebayo just stated. Dr. Abokolo.
Yes, thank you. As it is, I want to say thanks to Prince Adebayo for the historical context you provided regarding elections and all the contestations that have taken place and where we are. That indeed, in my opinion, is our problem. I believe that there is no place on earth where elections are perfect. There are going to be imperfections. Nigeria is not an exception. There are going to be losers and there are going to be winners. Nigeria is not an exception in that regard. However, if the health, peace, harmony of the entire citizenry is important, it is important to ensure that all bitterness, rancor, disappointment, let down, they are resolved within the framework of the legal provisions in the country, which is why in most countries, except Nigeria, all challenges, legal challenges to the outcome of an election are settled before the swearing in. That's why I stated in my opinion. Right now, we are bound by the constitutional provisions. In other words, somebody has been selected and that person will be sworn in. But the country remains in a very tenuous mood. To resolve that, we have to go back to reevaluating the constitutional provisions that allow for 180 days for legal challenges to an outcome of an election to be settled. That 180 days can be abridged so that all challenges are resolved way before the swearing-in ceremony. So that whoever is sworn in, when the person talks about let's work together, extends an olive branch, the people who are aggrieved, angry, let down, they would have exhausted all their constitutional, provisions to change the outcome of the election. If they have not, at that point, they are bound. Right now, if the swearing-in takes place, as will happen, as the Constitution currently stands, it will be difficult to imagine somebody actually saying, let us work together when the person who is aggrieved, felt let down, cheated, has not satisfied, has not been satisfied because the court is still on. So in my opinion, back to what I said, we are bound by Tinubu being sworn in on May 29th. It doesn't serve our purpose. We should have a provision, revise the Constitution that says all legal challenges to the outcome of an election should be settled way before somebody is sworn in. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Dr. Abokolo, I think that what you raised as part of the question Dr. Salako posted, and that's something I would like Prince Adewale to respond. What's wrong with the 1979 era? How do we go back to the 1979 era, he said, when the matter is settled before the swearing in? Why can't we settle this matter before swearing in? Why do we have to wait after swearing in, where the new government take the levers of power, have control over the arms of government, appoint Supreme Court justices? I mean, what are we doing here? Looks like we're just playing with this thing.
Okay, before I answer your question, you may want to check whether Dr. Bugaji, because it looks like I saw his name.
Okay.
Yeah,
on him whether
I
he's here.
actually had to call him. He's been trying. I saw that he called me earlier. He's been trying to join, so he's now in. Mhm.
I
Okay.
have just succeeded.
Verified to
because
know,
the link-
like Prince said.
The link I had before was not complete, and I tried to reach my colleague in and she did send me the correct one, so I'm on now.
Okay,
I'm sure I
great.
must have missed quite a lot, but I'm sure I can manage.
Yeah. Dr. Bugaji, thank you for joining, and we apologize for the trouble you went through.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, folks, just so you know, Dr. Bugaji is a former House of Rep member and is also the former special advisor to VP Atiku. You're welcome, sir.
And he also contested at the last, the 2023 election.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did contest in this last election. You're welcome, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Prince Adewale, go ahead, sir. Briefly, please.
Okay, yeah, the answer is very simple. Every election cycle, you play by the rules. The problem that we may encounter is for those who forget that we're a constitutional republic, and every right, including the right to contest, derives from the Constitution. So you don't change the rules after you are dissatisfied with the game. So 1979 Constitution is different from the 1999 Constitution in some respects, even though both are presidential republics. Therefore, all of us, when we were contesting for this election, knew that this would be the outcome. We knew. So nobody would say, I didn't know. Oh, I'm surprised now. We knew that one, the election could be free and fair. We knew that the election could be rigged or could have some flaws. We knew that an acceptable winner could come out. We also knew that the result could be controversial. But all of us knew, all the 18 of us knew, and all our 18 political parties knew, that whoever was declared, even if you go to court against the person will be sworn in anyway. So we knew that. So there's nobody should now start acting like, oh, we didn't know. That's the rule of the game. Whether it's a bad rule or good rule, people like Dr. Bugaji, who were National Assembly before, they passed electoral acts many times. They will tell you lots more when it comes to that. But all I can tell you is this. Any discussion as to whether we want to amend the Constitution is a long-term discussion. The Constitution we have now says the winner will be sworn in, and the winner is legitimate, despite my misgiving or the misgiving of any other person. He's duly elected in the eye of the law. He will be sworn in without flaws. Later, the court says there's an error, he will be removed. He's being sworn in or not sworn in makes no difference to the matter. In 1979, the procedure was different. The grounds for election complaints were different. And we can do that. If you want to go back to the 79 era, what you need to do is as follows. You would change the Electoral Act and says that anyone who is not satisfied will go in the presidential election, will go to the Supreme Court directly. And in the Supreme Court, you have 60 days. Simple. If you do that, and you hold your election in February, the Supreme Court, just like Shagari's case, a few days to the swearing in, Supreme Court will make its decision, and that will be full and final. You could even improve on that and do a procedure whereby every election result declared by INEC is provisional. So when you conduct an election, some countries do it, INEC will take the results and submit the results to the judicial system. And everybody will go there and challenge it. Then the onus will be on INEC, the burden will be on INEC to justify the result before the Constitutional Court. And once the Constitutional Court says the result is okay, the person gets the go-ahead to be sworn in. So there are many options.
Right. I think it appears that our system might be flawed if all we can do is declare a winner and then have the opposition go to court and then remove someone who have been sworn in. It appears to me this war has been going on in the country for a while now, and you rightfully stated it has been going on for several years, if not decades. But I want to bring Dr. Usman in here. The discussion on the table is whether Mr. Tinubu should be sworn in or whether the process should wait until the court fully adjudicates the matter. And you can hear Prince Adebayo say that he should be sworn in and nothing should stop it. Others disagree. What say you, sir? I think you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I have just unmuted myself. But let me first react to the issue on the table. And I've listened to a lot of comments and I've seen a lot of write-ups as to whether he should be sworn in or not. And I think the matter is basically, what does the law say? If the law says that this is the procedure, we don't have much choice but to go by whatever the law says. I would rather we come back and do a more thorough assessment of our political system and see what are the things that do we need to, because even if we resolve the issues of the moment, if we have not tackled the fundamental flaws within the political system, these things will continue repeating themselves and perhaps getting worse, like we have seen. And I would rather say that, look, the problem of this country can be reduced to leadership. I mean, what we suffered in the last 8 years is a crisis of leadership. We have people who are not prepared for leadership, who have no capacity for leadership, who don't have the requisite knowledge, to lead. And so all manners of characters of people came, and look at the loss. I mean, by some analysis, some count, I mean, this is perhaps the worst in terms of corruption that we have seen. So now we should be able to say, okay, what exactly is the problem? We should try to be as scientific as possible and try to be as systematic as possible. Now, for me, and I'm prepared to accept any other alternative view so long as it makes sense to me, for me, the real problem with our country is the problem of leadership recruitment process. Our leadership recruitment process is so flawed that it is near impossible for any competent, committed Nigerian to emerge in any level, at any level of leadership. Because if you have to use political parties, not independent candidates, then you have to go through these political owners of the party. And these people are basically mercantile. Everything there is about money. Look at how the elections the primaries were run. People were actually negotiating. Candidates or delegates had prices. People were basically paying. It has gotten to a point where we can no longer, in all honesty, say people are winning elections. People are purchasing elections. They are buying it. So I would rather we come back and say, okay, if the problem is leadership, and if the problem is the leadership recruitment mechanism, what exactly is the problem? The problem is that the leadership recruitment has no criteria for competence.
Right.
It has no criteria at all.
Right.
So this is why every kind of character can just simply come and contest. Look at the kind of thing we have in the National Assembly. We're having people who really cannot even understand the language of the National Assembly. They cannot participate in the debate. Why are they there? They're not there to debate. They're not there to push for any particular agenda. They're there to make money. And that's what motivated them. And that's what they are going to do when they come. They will hardly be on their seat. They will be following allowances. They will use their position to get contracts from ministries. They will be negotiating with ministers. to prop up their budget, on a fee that is paid. That's all they will do. When they go to oversight, they are not going to oversight anything. They're just going to say, hey, wait a minute, what is your budget? This is your budget. What can we get? And that's what has basically been running down this country. Now, how do we get more competent, more committed, more diligent, people in the National Assembly?
So you're saying we should go. So you are saying basically we should restructure the way we select our leaders.
We have to
the
address
process
the
is not working.
Yeah, the leadership recruitment mechanism is faulty, and it will continue to churn out these crooks and criminals. These are the only people who have got that kind of money, to be able to throw around. These are the only people who can, and they will buy you off. It doesn't matter your credentials. It doesn't matter because those things that really make you to function and work better for your country are not the priorities of the leadership recruitment mechanism. The priorities of the leadership recruitment process is money. And you see it being displayed at every level. In fact, they laugh at us who have got academic background that you can only speak long grammar. But when they come with their jeeps, with their money, it's monies that they have stolen right under our nose. They will buy even the judiciary.
Yes.
So I would rather we allow whatever the law says, we go by it. Like Prince Adewale just finished speaking. I mean, we should know what the law says, and if that's what the law says, then that's what is going to be done. Because
at least in the interim, that's what should be done.
Yeah,
agreed. But in the long run, we should overhaul the electoral system and change the way leadership is being picked, and also change our constitution to accommodate issues like this.
You are spot on. This is exactly what we should be discussing. How can we change the leadership recruitment mechanism? How can we change the electoral laws? How can we change all these regulatory issues so that the system allows for the more competent, it prioritizes. At the moment, there is no priority. And I argue with people who say, well, the Constitution says if you have got a West African school certificate and you have got this number of age, I said that is not criteria for leadership. It is criteria for eligibility. But we have
we seem to confuse that. Well, thank you for clarifying that. It is a criteria for eligibility, not for leadership. I think Dr. Usman is frozen, but Madam Key. Okay. Yes. Okay, you're back.
Can I just make this point?
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
For example, would any one of us with a company advertise for a managing director or general manager or whatever position and say anybody with WASC, can apply? You don't do that. You would have to go for the qualifications. Say, for example, this person has to have a degree in marketing or degree in engineering, depending upon what you want. He must have 15 years of experience. After all this, you're going to run some kind of interview just to make sure that the person you are selecting for this leadership position fits the job.
The office is being,
so if we can do that for companies,
yes.
What more about countries?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir.
So this is my position.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And your position is worth taking, and I have no quarrel with that position. And you're asking that we take an holistic view of the entire system, which is quite appropriate. But Madam Key, you went through the court system. How did that? What happened? I mean, what was the process like? Was it fair? Was the outcome okay? Could you just chime us into the courtroom? What really happened in your situation when you contested and the process was rigged in the primaries and you went to court?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Labode. My own situation. That's why when I look at what's happening in the court right now, I'm like, okay, I don't even know what's going to happen because, in my own case, I would say the first lawyer, I actually worked with 5 sets of lawyers, paying them differently apart from the first lawyer. in the end, he deliberately didn't want to file the case on time. I'm not dumb, so I know what 14 days, is. And he made sure we passed that 14 days and was kind of advising that it's okay to use another remedy. But being that we still wanted to pursue the case, and we met the second lawyer, third, fourth, in the end, the fifth continued. But good enough, the fifth now had other cases to look at, saying that even if we fail because we did not file within 14 days, which is, not the speculation, but, what the electoral law says. We know we did not file within, and we know the problem, but then that's not the court's business. We should have done, my last set of lawyers found out that even if we don't meet that space of the 14 days, the way PROP actually went about the primary election did not meet the electoral laws. And it says that for presidential primaries, all presidential primaries must be done in Abuja or another preferred Abuja, or another state, but every one of us must come together in one space, in one state. But the way PRP did the election was in different states. We did it simultaneously, but it was done in different states, and the report collected and sent to Abuja.
And that was in contravention with the rules.
Yes, it was contravention with the rules. So I didn't know, that. I didn't see that. I didn't read that deeply. So it was when the lawyers were asking all those questions, they said so they now found, another case from the Supreme Court that says if so things is done this way, even PRP, the election should be canceled, everything. So we now decided to follow. We also, imputed that. And the first judge that started the case has not even had the time to hear us, just like what Prince Adewale says, that it's not the judiciary system that makes the case elongated. It is the way you file your case. So when they come like, okay, you didn't do it well, you have to go back and, back and forth. In the end, that very judge had to go on vacation. And a lady judge came. She was actually the one who heard the cases twice. She'll be a very intelligent woman. Of course, when I see them, I just go and read up on them, get to know who they are. And she was doing what she needed to do. After her first sitting with the lawyers, on the third one, all of a sudden, she was nowhere to be found. She was not removed because the first judge came back from his vacation, because he was not back from vacation either. She was removed, of course, I don't know, but then everybody saw that she was just up and right and doing what she needed to do. Actually, we found out with investigation that she's a no-nonsense judge. She's not one of those judges that, you can, that's what we heard, and she was removed. We didn't know why. We had to wait for the judge that was in place initially to come back from his vacation. When he came back, he called for us, for the case to resume. Instead of hearing from the lawyers, because like I said, he never heard the cases. We're just trying to serve, trying to do this and all that. He just told them, oh no, he doesn't want to hear any case. They should just give him all their reports. Just send it to me. I will go through them. The next sitting will be judgment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And lawyers gave them whatever they had. And a time came, we heard that so time will be judgment, and everyone was present. He started by saying the court does not have jurisdiction. Of course, we know that. At the 14 days, that's where he was hitting. But that's part of the law that states that even the way PRP did the election is against the electoral system in the first place. He didn't visit that. So he just stopped at, we have 14 days. So he didn't go, to all the things we stated, the facts and all that. He just went with the one that, of course, we all know about that. And
it's basically toss off the case based on technicality.
And we decided to appeal. We were up and running with everything, and I just I had a meeting with my lawyers and like, okay, are these judges going to be different? Because there would be no way, apart from, the money one is going to be wasting, even the mental, having to think, there are so many things I should be doing now, business and all that, and running around, you're doing better things, but you have to think, oh, the lawyer will call you, this will call you, you're sending this, you're sending that, you're answering these questions. That's even more than the money that is spent, my mental, whatever. Wow. So I had to sit them at, and like, what's going to happen? Are these judges going to be, because I'm not ready to bribe anybody. And I know my opponents are ready to do anything, but I will not. So instead of trying to meet with now we're going to have 3 judges. One, we see what he did and all that. So they could not really give me a cogent answer, an answer that will help me to say, okay, let's continue. So I have to tell them to, just withdraw the appeal. And like what Prince Adebayo has said and Dr. Bugaji, where we are right now, every one of us has to wait for the law, because the law will state what happens. And again, this is the constitution that we have. We are not US, we are not Europe, so we should not be pigging back on what is happening in the US. No constitution anywhere in the world is perfect. There are so many things, policies and all that comes up in the US that some people don't like, So this is our own cross that we are carrying. The right time to change a constitution, the right time to do anything is not right now. Okay, yeah. So because we are waiting for what the judges will say. So if what Nigeria is practicing is that, like Prince said, so many people have been Peter Obi is what all of us know. So it has happened before. After 2 years, he took over and served his full term. So that is what Nigeria is practicing, and we have to respect it. Okay. Then looking at what Dr. Bugaji said, the eligibility is key. In the first place, there are some of them that shouldn't even have passed through the screening. We went through the screening. You saw what is there. There's so many speculation. This one does not have a primary certificate. This one did not go to this school. With all that, Uncle Tinubu should not even be on the ballot.
And why shouldn't he even be on the ballot? So okay, based on what fact you think he shouldn't have been on the ballot? Which fact are you specifically pointing to that you think excludes him from participating? Well, there's speculation about the schools that he went to. There's speculation about his age. Well, we saw something that has to do with felony. Anybody who has felony, whether in Nigeria, outside Nigeria, shouldn't even be, a part of it shouldn't be eligible at all. So with all these speculations, except maybe there's something they found that made them to allow him to continue in the race. But with all this, if you don't have a primary certificate, or you have, but we don't know, it's not authentic. We don't know the authenticity, because every one of us, Mr. Prince, Dr. Bugaji and the rest, they saw during our screening, we passed through because they said that we went to primary school, the primary school we went to, the secondary school, the university, and all that. And if they want to verify, it's verifiable. And again, with the age thing, people going from 60 years to 80 years to 30 years and all that. Then the felony. So with all that, he shouldn't have been eligible at all, if not for the problem of
crude leadership. And the leadership is not just people on top. Leadership is you and I. For three of us who went through this election, we will tell you that the more problem we have is the Nigerian people, because we are the influencers. We fuel the crisis. We celebrate these people who are so crude, who will not do us good.
Madam
It's
Key.
going to be an ongoing process, because in creating awareness, in educating the people, it's going to be a long process, and we have to do it for the people to be enlightened.
Madam Key, please. We've been through this road. This is not our first time. Remember when Buhari was running, we had the same issue with school? Exactly. He served 8 years. When is the constitution going to be changed?
When we have good people who are ready to speak and continue to speak, like I said, it's going to be a long process, but we need to stay where we are. We shouldn't be a part of those who, when they give you oil block, then you forget your name. They give you a house in Banana Island, then you forget that you have children, and they might suffer the consequences after you enjoy all those things, So it is a long process, but it's doable if we have people who are going to stay put and continue to fight the good fight. We can make it happen.
Yeah, okay, thank you, ma'am. And thank you for articulating that very well and clarifying it. But I want to ask Dr. Prince Adebayo, sorry. And maybe you might be able to share insight on this. Section 1342B of the 1999 Constitution, this one you said we should use, not the 1979 one, states clearly in unambiguous terms, direct and simple, that to be declared a president, the candidate must secure at least 1/4 of vote cast in 2/3 of the 36 states. And the FCT. Now, we all know Tinubu did not secure 25% in FCT. My question to you is FCT a state or not a state? And should we discard that provision?
Well, what I can say, number one, is that I'll answer your question after giving you this. When something's before the court, and the court is to determine it, we are in the best state of mental health if we allow the court to determine it. The reason why people are taking it to court is that they can't agree on it. I know the answer. If I was sitting as a justice of Supreme Court, it won't take any justice of Supreme Court more than 3 minutes to give you the answer. It's very simple. But nothing is simple to people who have interests. What I can tell you clearly is that there's a difference between two provisions. One provision, let me give you two ways to word a provision. If you write as follows: for a person to be declared president, he must have the highest number of votes and also score 25% or 1/4 of the votes in 2/3 of the states and 1/4 of the votes in FCT. If you write it like that, you remember, let me recast it. If you write as follows, if you write as follows, that is, you must score 1/4 of the votes in 2/3 of the states and 1/4 of the votes in FCT. But if you just say you must score 1/4 of the votes in 3/4 of the state and FCT, if you don't repeat 1/4 for FCT, it will appear to some literal interpretation that it simply means that when you are considering whether somebody has scored 2/3 of the states, also add FCT to it, because there are some provisions in other parts of the Constitution that says anytime we mention state, it also includes FCT. There are other provisions that says with respect to FCT, when you are treating it, you also treat as if it were one of the states. So, but nothing I say now is going to satisfy the people who have a case in court. They're not going to hear me and say, oh, we got you now. Let's go and withdraw our case. No. Secondly, always note that when the matter is controversial like this, and lawyers are coming from different angles to give different interpretations, bear two things in mind. Lawyers are not trained and are not expected to give statutory interpretations. Lawyers are trained in advocacy. So a judge, when he's sitting as a judge, is not on any side. He listens to you and gives the final answer. But a lawyer, he will sympathize with somebody first. He will say, oh, this is my client. This interpretation will help his case. Therefore, let me take this interpretation. The same lawyer, 2 weeks later, when it's on another case, and the client is on the other side. So one lawyer can believe that FCT is 2/3 is required in FCT, and 1/4 is required in FCT if it will help his client. In another case, where it doesn't help his client, he will say, my lord, it is not included. So don't get carried away by where lawyers stand. The second point you need to know, even when lawyers are honest, they don't have the same interpretation of his statute, however simple it is. Even judges of Supreme Court, they usually will hold conferences. So if there are 7 of them, 2 may go this way, 5 may go that way. In the final analysis, they will say, well, we don't agree, but it's not, we don't want to be divided in public. So you go and write it like this. And it's not simple. So if it's not simple for the court, it's not simple for the layman, but from my training as a constitutional lawyer, I see a difference between the way it is written like this and the way it could have been written if they wanted FCT to be required. There are other arguments you can make about the absurdity of it and all of that, but I don't want to go into the meat of it because as a lawyer who practices the Supreme Court, I don't want to turn up there one day and my law will say, say you come and join us now. You are the one speculating about how we determine the case.
So remember your public opinion.
Yes, so usually we are not. Once matter is in court, we just wait and let the people do. But in any case, one thing I can add to it is that
yes,
even if the matter is determined, it won't make a difference in the election. That's one thing I've seen from somebody who studied it. Even if the court says 25% is required in FCT, what the court can only say is that all of us go back and do the election. Because the fact that the winner did not score 25% in FCT doesn't make the second person automatically qualified.
Absolutely, exactly.
Yes, so we'll go back, and if we go back and do the election, and the same person scored the highest vote again, it still doesn't meet 25% in FCT, then the person will go back again and continue to do it. And if people in FCT don't like him, which we have the right not to like him, then it means that we'll continue to do the election forever. I don't think want to do that.
But I think the people are entitled to credible election, and a winner that justifiably win the votes of the people should be elected. I believe that no matter how it takes, no matter how long it takes, no matter the orders we have to go through, whoever sits in that office should be the people's choice.
That is a political statement. That is not a legal problem. What I want to let you know is that, and I want us to understand it, we have a right to demand for free, fair, and credible elections. Yes. But the court will not be the instrument to use to help us enforce that. There is no, you can go anywhere in the world, you cannot tell me one country that has been able to say, it is because of our courts that our politics is good. That's not true. No, that's not correct. There's no country you can go and say, oh, this country's politics was going bad, but their judges help them to solve their politics. No.
So usually, the people have to do this through their elected representative. That's what you're saying?
And especially through their political parties. The political parties have the most role to play is socializing the people. Courts are not supposed to even, Nigerian courts are even trying. If you have this problem in England, the chief judge may even throw all the cases away. The English courts don't like to be given political questions to answer.
Yes.
And there are many cases like that. And you will see that in the US, the Supreme Court is, if you look at Gore versus Bush, you will see that Bush versus Gore, that the Supreme Court says, if you study that case very well and study, the Supreme Court says, well, what you are saying may be true, but we don't care. That's exactly what the US Supreme Court said to Gore. Yes, your results in Fort Lauderdale and somewhere in Florida, it was truncated, it wasn't counted. It's not our business. To do so would be to be troubling the political people, the other people who voted peacefully in other places. Go and study that case very well. So in Nigeria today, I sign with those who want free, fair, credible election. But I can tell you as a lawyer that you can go to the court for the next 1,000 years, the court can't help you. Why? Because the court is given code of conduct, is given regulation, and the court is strict. And under our law, final point I will make, under our law, the courts are forced by law to say that unless something is extraordinary, don't touch anything INEC has declared. So you must not just find an error, you must find an error that is substantial. And that definition of substantial, it does not include some of the things we're mentioning now.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I'm sure, Prince, with due respect, I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with that statement when in our eyes, we could see most of this malpractice take place in real time. But again,
law. I'm not talking about what we saw.
We'll leave it for the court to sort out. Yes, we'll leave it for the court to sort out. But I want to bring Dr. Usman in. But before I do that, I see a couple people had their hands raised. I'm going to quickly acknowledge one person and I'll come back to the next person. Nicholas, I know you had your hand raised for a while. So just make a comment very brief or if you have a question for Dr. Prince or any of the interlocutors.
All right. Good evening. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dr. Prince. Good afternoon, everybody. I think this is a learning experience for me, but the only thing I have to ask is the situation of the 25% in the FCT. I mean, where I feel like Nigerians are acting as if, no, this is the first time the matter has been brought up. There's actually a judgment that says, by the Supreme Court, that says you need 25% in the FCT. So isn't INEC going against the judges and this constitution to announce a winner that did not declare 25%? It seems like, from what I'm seeing, this whole situation is like, oh, they know that you need 25%, but they made an announcement regardless. So it's like, from what you said, it just seemed like, oh, we're still arguing this matter like it's a fresh case. There's already a case with a judgment that says you do not need to win Abuja. What you need is 25% to win the election.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas.
And then also, sorry, just to add, sorry, 2 more seconds, just to add, your last statement where you said the court does not determine, the court does not want to enable political questions. I don't think we're actually asking political questions. What we're asking is for transparency. INEC went against their guidelines, which they came out to tell us that this is the guidelines. It's as simple as ABC. I don't know why this court case is taking this long, but I understand how technicalities in Nigeria works and whatnot. But it's very sad just to understand like that this is even a dragging matter. At least the court should go with priority. What are the priorities? Right now, a lot of people's hearts are like offended that there is no 25%. Can they pass a declaration to understand that 25% before inauguration? Because as we're all seated here, we really don't even know what's going to happen in Nigeria any day, from any day, any time.
Thank you, Nicholas.
May I come in before you bring in Dr. Budach?
Okay, sure.
Okay. Yeah, I want to say something, based on what Prince said, but to help to just add to, to answer our last speaker, because Prince already, explained, what it is. In every constitution, there's a lacuna. Every constitution, there's lacunas. they say 25%. Then another place they added Abuja as a state. So it refers that, okay, if you do this, Abuja is a state, so why not? So what I wanted to say was bringing us back to what happened in Naido during when we were taken to court. I'm just talking about the characters of lawyers and judges. When one of the judge in charge sent us to arbitration, you know, for us to settle amicably and all that. You remember that the arbitration judge was pushing that, oh, he comes with this force, as in, oh, just agree to what he said. And I'm like, excuse me, why should I do that? I mean, this is the United States. He comes to tell me what the other party said and hammering that, oh, patience, you know, you should agree to things that you did not do. And I told him strongly, no, that won't happen. Also remember that even the lawyer, the firm that was given to us by the judge, I don't want to mention his name, was working well with us, but in the end, just because the arbitration lawyer judge was kind of playing, I don't want to use that he's playing games, he also decided to melt and was now writing things that will make, you know, me agree to what the opposition is asking for and all that. But we strongly refused and like, no. Twice when they sent us again to arbitration, the same judge still came back. But now he already understood what he would tell patients and what he will not say. So he was talking with respect. So why I'm saying this is this. So with Prince's description and the answers that he's giving and interpretation, I think lawyers are lawyers everywhere. Judges are judges, because now I'm now looking at, apart from what happens to us in Nigeria, what even happened in the US here, you know, until, you know, when the opposition started to mess up and try to put lie upon their lies, and there was no other lie to say. Until the judge now like, okay, what are people saying? You're saying this, and next tomorrow you're saying this and all that. And God gave, you know, God just vindicated us. So there's a problem. It's a global problem. It's not just a Nigerian thing.
Thank you.
Everywhere.
Thank you, Madam Key. Dr. Usman, please, if you can come on, switch on your camera. I want you to take a stab at what Nicholas pointed out. I think he raised a pertinent question, which I think the Prince explained a little bit, but the people are not satisfied. And I want you to take a stab at it. And what do you think about that? Should the 25% issue be resolved, knowing that this issue has already been litigated before in the court, and the court has taken a position on this 25%? So why is this a controversy now? Dr. Bugaja, are you there? Yeah.
I'm there. I'm looking at you,
Okay,
and listening to. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not versed in the intricacies of the law. But what makes sense to me, there are three things that the court should immediately dispense with before proceeding into the issues of election as to whether IREP, you know, has given the correct figures. I mean, the rest of it. I think the issue of the 25% in Abuja should be an issue that they should clarify. I think the issue of double nomination is an issue they should clarify. And I think there's even one third issue. I can't quite remember what it is at the moment. But these are what I thought are preliminary things. They should clear them and then proceed with the substantial issue. And
the issue of forfeiting. I was trying to remind you that. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's it.
Forfeiture.
I mean, because these issues have been raised. So if they are not consequential, they should dismiss them and say these are not consequential, and then they go into the substance of the matter.
and that can be done right away, right? Without long investigation.
I'm still saying that, not being a lawyer, I don't know what is stopping them from doing that. For me, it makes more sense to dismiss or deal with issues that are very clear, and they are preliminary issues, which you should immediately give judgment for. And if, for example, by their interpretation or their own judgment, these three issues are not substantial, they are not going to affect their judgment, then they should tell us, and this is their reason, and then they dismiss these things and then proceed into the other issues. But I don't know how the law works.
Yeah.
It's not my own, but I'm just looking at what makes sense to me.
Absolutely. And Prince, I mean, you're a lawyer. I know you're very hesitant to want to step into the purview of the Supreme Court or the Tribunal, but I'm sure you can have an opinion as a citizen. Shouldn't the 25% issue be resolved before other matters? I mean, that is not that hard, right?
Okay, let me just say this. People are forgetting that the case is ongoing. And this preference that people are making from home using their laptop and phones, they are not the position taken by the petitioner's lawyer.
Okay.
If you are following the proceeding, the court is asking the petitioners and the respondents, how do you want to do your case? That's what we are doing pre-hearing. If you have been going to court, you are seeing how the court is being seen. The court is asking, you lawyers, agree among yourselves. How do you want
Most of
us
them
to
are done in
proceed on
conferences,
this matter?
pre-hearing conferences. Yeah.
They are done in open. These conferences are held in open. So people are there. The press is there. Now, you will see that they've had 3 adjournments. First time, the petitioner said, we're not ready. Give us some time. Give us a week. They came back. They said, we've not collected the documents from which we are going to sort the issues out. So there's not anything the court can do to help a petitioner who's on time and who says, give me a little more time, I need to look at certain documents. You typically, from my experience, I've done presidential election petition before. So I've been on that side a number of times. So typically, when you file your petition, you state all the grounds. The court doesn't take the grounds seriously because when you start the hearing, you may tell the court, my lord, ground 2, we withdraw it, and things like that. So when you file a petition and you put all the grounds, the court tends to assume that when your clients brief you, you tend to be aggressive. But as you get that more evidence and you come to the hearing and the other person replies to you, you get wiser. And you may decide to say, okay, let me drop one issue or the other. So there's nothing the court can do. It's not as if the court can just wake up, okay, you know what, you guys, 25% we're highly interested in it. No, they can't do that. Except if the petitioner says, my lord, we want to submit before we go for it to hearing, we want to take certain preliminary issues. Typically, petitioners don't like that because they don't want, when I did it, I can reference at least the case I did in the past, when I did the case of, you can go and read the law report, you will see it, when we filed the defense in Buhari versus Yaradua. After we filed that report, we realized that we could actually get them knocked out by just letting the court pronounce on certain things. They objected to it, and Justice Ogebe was presiding. And we said, we have preliminary objection. He said, no. I will hear everything together. Many years later, after the case, I met Justice Ogebe at the airport, and he was saying, oh, you're a young man, you don't understand. You cannot run, if a petitioner brings a case to the court, you have to give them a sense of hearing. So you are asking us, because the matter looks straightforward, to dismiss the petition based on certain legal grounds. We can't do it because the whole nation is watching the proceeding. They want to see that the court has given free hearing. So some of the people saying the court should determine 25% now. The court can determine 25%. The issue of double nomination, the issue of the person not qualification, the court can determine today. But if the court does so, most likely from my experience, the petitioners are really want to cry that the court did not hear them out very well. So the judges are very careful, so they will wait. Second point is that unless you have practiced in Supreme Court before, you should understand that don't just pick newspaper and say that Supreme Court has pronounced on an issue or the other. You should have been practicing before Supreme Court. You should have got a copy of the judgment. When it comes to whether a person needs 25% in FCT, the court has not pronounced on it.
Okay.
Not at all. The ruling, which Nicholas, I suppose I got the name right, and some of the other highly intelligent laymen are referencing, was a case where the court said that you don't have to win FCT. You do not have to win FCT. What in fact, what the court said that you don't need to win any particular state. What is required is that you get majority of lawful votes for you. Underlying lawful votes doesn't mean highest votes, because people don't understand. Majority of lawful votes doesn't mean the highest number of votes. Because
the votes could be rigged, yeah.
Exactly. So you must have the majority of lawful votes, and then you must have 1/4 in 2/3 of the states and FCT. So the court now is coming before the court for the first time, whether if a person who is otherwise qualified by getting more than the customary requirement of 2/3 in other states, but fails to get FCT, whether that person is now not duly elected. That is coming for the first time. So 99% in my mind, I know what the court would say, but I will wait for them to say it, because it's part of what we are learning. But to answer Dr. Bugaje, just like National Assembly has its own legislative procedure, rules of the House and everything, and rules of the Senate, and you go to Rules and Business Committee to go and get it. This is how it is in the court. The court can't jump. So what they are doing now is pre-hearing. And from what I'm hearing from some lawyers who are involved in the pre-hearing, it looks like some of the petitioners may even drop some of the grounds that people are holding on to now. They may just come to the conclusion that we have seen that it's not a winnable ground, let's drop it. As you can see, even some of the petitioners, 2 of the petitioners have dropped their own petition, they've withdrawn completely. So the court is not in a hurry. So the court will have to bear in mind that these people may come tomorrow, even withdraw the whole petition, they may withdraw part of it, and things like that. So the court is just in order at this point, to be fair.
Sorry.
Okay. So basically, I just want to just try to understand what Prince said. It is wise for us to wait for the process, that even the litigants who have brought the case to court might end up withdrawing the case. And if they see that their case is not winnable and there is no actionable case in their petition. And if that happens, it appears that those who are agitating for some kind of justice on those grounds might be disappointed. And but how do you then address issues of before I say that, Nicholas, you wanted to say something just quickly.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Prince. Like I said, it's a learning experience, and I just found out that they haven't given a judgment. Instead, what they did was reiterate the Constitution. That is still quite confusing. But I just want to ask, like, as a lawyer, how do you feel when you go to court on a daily basis and a judge can give, when the Constitution says you cannot run for an office in the primaries and then go to another primary, the case of Senate President Ahmed Lawan, like, how do we as citizens expect much from a court that does those type of things and find the basis on technicalities? Someone who ran for president and then turns out to now still go back and run for senator when the Constitution says you cannot do that. It gives ground for someone like me who is trying to even get into law school here in the United States. I'm looking at it as, I can't even come back to Nigeria to come and say I want to call to back. I would rather just stay in America and focus in America and just follow the laws of America. But I'm just asking, as a lawyer, how do you feel when this kind of things arises? Because again, like I can't remember his name, Mr. Usman, he said it is very important, like, if Nigerians are clamoring that this is a constitutional problem, and where there are people that, like the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, saying that if you swear in the president elect, if you swear him in, it is an unconstitutional government. Is it not important for some important, like this 25% case now? I know that there are residents of the FCT who have gone to court to go and file for it, but is it not important for them to also like give a proclamation to that case? Because again, like I said, I wake up every day just to rush the Nigerian news to see what's going on, because I don't know the day that one thing will spark.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nicholas. Go ahead.
Let me just answer that. Let me just answer that because it's not that difficult. One, people should understand something, especially I'm happy that you are studying law. I'm a US lawyer myself. Judge cases are never properly reported in the newspapers. You pick a copy of the judgment. Remember, just about yesterday, people were saying a judge in Kano had removed the governor-elect of Abia. They were all publishing it. They had not even seen a copy. In fact, when you read the judgment, the court says, I will not pronounce on Abia because I am in Kano. So if you want to talk about Abia, go to Abia or go elsewhere. But the newspaper just went and everybody went that way. The same thing in Lawan's case. The Supreme Court has not heard that if you run for president, you can come back and run for Senate. That's not what the Supreme Court said. Supreme Court says, if you come before me trying to raise an issue that is controversial, don't come by way of writ of summons. Don't come by way of originating summons where I cannot take evidence. Come by way of writ of summons. So this procedure you have used for us to go and find out facts is not appropriate. Therefore, your case cannot be heard. Because Supreme Court at that point cannot be calling witnesses. It's against the law for Supreme Court. It has no witness box.
Yeah, it's not a trial fact.
Yes, so that is so, but people assume that the courts are set up to satisfy their political problems. That's not why the judges are there. The judges are like automatons. They're supposed to just look at the law. It's like a calculator. Calculator does not help you to pay your debt. But if you write 2 times 2, 4 times million, it will write 4 million for you. Whether you have the money to pay or not, that's your problem. Now, with regards to DATI, you see, anything politicians say regarding the Constitution, regarding the law, just ignore it. Why? Because politicians are not in charge of the law. They are in charge of their interests and the interests of their political party. Let me give you an example. Dati himself was elected as a CPC senator, and PDP went to court against him in Kaduna North.
Kaduna State,
he himself was sworn into the Senate. He was in the Senate moving motion, seconding motion. He didn't say, oh, since there's a challenge against my election, I will not take my Senate seat. He went to the Senate, he collected salary, he sat there in the Senate, he sat in the committee, he's still bearing the title senator up to today, even though a few months later, the case in the court was heard and it was discovered that Dati rigged the election. Dati was not duly elected.
But Mr. Prince, that is election.
Hold on, Nicholas.
Hold on, please.
Okay. Hold on, Nicholas.
The court removed Dati and put another person and said Dati was not elected. But Dati still continued to be a senator up to today, even though the court has said he wasn't elected. And he didn't return the salary. And he's still talking about his experience in the Senate, my experience in the Senate, my experience in the Senate, when the court found that you, Dati Ahmed, rigged election. And I helped you to rig. Therefore, you are not supposed to be there. Nobody elected you. So now, another person whom he is alleging is in similar position as his. He's saying the republic will end, the sky will fall. He's saying that as an advocate of his own side. So he has an entitlement to say it, but
absolutely,
we should understand that we should be careful how we interpret these things. Nothing will fall. And Supreme Court doesn't care whether you are being sworn in or not. In fact, the Supreme Court will be happier to remove a person who has been sworn in so that you can know that Supreme Court is supreme. They don't give a damn about that.
Well, I can tell you that, Prince Adebole, that some of us, the voters, the credibility of the Supreme Court is not very strong.
The Supreme Court credibility is sound. Let me tell you something. The Supreme Court of Nigeria is sounder than the Supreme Court of the United States, where I'm also licensed to practice. Because those ones vote according to party. Republican will vote this way. That Supreme Court in the US is not a joke of a Supreme Court, with due respect. Because a politician...
Can I make it clear?
Absolutely.
With due respect, the politician can come and pack the court. So you know that Clarence Thomas will always vote towards Republican, no matter what you argue before him. You will continue to go the way of... I appeared before Kavanaugh when he was in the district court in Washington, D.C.
In D.C., right?
Yeah, it was DC circuit.
Yeah, it was a DC circuit, right?
Yeah,
right.
I respect him a lot. You know, okay. But now, as a judge of Supreme Court, he's expected to come and vote the Republican way. But in Nigeria, the judges vote according to the law. But there are two problems there. Nigerians don't know their own law. Nigerians are not familiar with the laws of their own country.
Bam, yes.
So they now think that the Supreme Court is a popularity contest, like they are judges of who is popular. They are judges of the law, and you don't know your law. Many people contest in election, they don't know the ground rules of the election. Many political parties use unemployed graduates as legal advisors, so they don't know the law. So when they now encounter the law, they now realize that the law, I have done cases in many, I did a case in the Supreme Court of Australia 2 years ago, where they said, oh, the court will never take the case. But we advocated, and the court took the case. And I have a friend of mine who is a QC who has practiced law for 30 years in Australia. He told me, I don't know, when you were telling me the court will take the case, I never believed so. Because there are advocates who actually draw the attention of the court to things you have not seen. So don't assume that because you are outside, you got one fact of the case, then the case doesn't go the way you want, therefore you're not happy. The court is not there to make you happy. The court is there to enforce the law. So, and don't tell me that you don't know that 3 years of Bush, comedians, everybody was saying Bush was the Supreme Court president, George Bush Jr. They said it wasn't legitimate. They were mocking him and all of that, but that's the law. So you who want to practice in the US, you will find out that the court is even more nuanced than Nigerian court, because our practice
it's actually more partisan than you can even imagine.
I
wanted to bring in Madam Key. Hold on, Madam Key. I think you seem to agree with Prince here regarding the state of the court, but you went through the court system, and you can see that. I mean, this process was not fair. I mean, is the Supreme Court removed from the election tribunal? Are they different? I know you didn't go to the Supreme Court.
We didn't get to the right. Yeah, we didn't get to the Supreme Court. We tribunal. Then we tried to get to appeal, but I asked them to just withdraw the case because I didn't want to have that mental heat of the judge is going to do the right thing and all that. Some lawyers telling you judge wants money and all that. I'm not ready to give the money. So, you know, if that's what they are wanting. And again, even the staffs was another thing. They want us to pay all this money, which, you know, we are doing, but they don't want to give you receipts. It's crazy. So, you know, the judge is not just the problem. The lawyers are not just the problem. That's why I said the training and education that we need to do is a long life, is a process that is going to be a continuum, because the whole system is flawed. We start from we the influencers, we the people, you know. So it's just a lot.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, my brother. Yeah. There was some Mr. Nicholas brought out something, and Prince actually, you know, settled a lot of that, answered a lot of that, and even giving more example. You know, there's a lot of interest in the things we do. Even some of us that are on this whatever today is, oh, we want OB, whether there's something wrong, whether there was some, you know, we just want. Those who want article are saying, oh, it's article, whether there's, we have to remove sentiment if we want Nigeria to move forward, because Nigeria is you, Nigeria is me, you know, whatever. In Lagos State, there was a case, you know, the two people that ran in LP, the guy, is it Badepo or whatever that ran in LP, guess what? We heard that guy actually ran for the primaries in PDP and lost, and now traveled to LP because he wants candidacy. So what are we saying here? What are we saying here? So let's go back, and the guy actually ran in PDP. But the electoral law says if you have, you know, been in this position and you lost in any primaries, you cannot. You know, there are so many people who came to us who was like, oh, it doesn't matter. We will take you to another party. I said, sorry, that's not me. It's not a poor guy for me and all that. We're not doing that. We have to follow the law. The law says, since, you know, we didn't get it in PRP, we cannot go forward. Next time we will come back again. But the boy ran in PDP, lost in PDP, and went the gentleman, I'm sorry, thank you for helping me before they sue me now. Well, thank God I have you, so. You see, so let's forget about this interest. All we should be talking about, we want Nigeria to move forward. Let's tell ourselves the hard truth. The hard truth that we can crack, take care of, so that in Nigeria should not be the way it is right now. But for our personal interest, our collective interest, when it comes to, he's an Igbo man, he's a Yoruba man, who cares? It is not the language that is going to rule you. It's somebody that is going to be there to lead your life astray or lead your life, you know, forward. So please, yeah, the same people who are agitating for today, they've done worse things. I said it to so many people. I said, they're the same vice president to Peter, did this in Kaduna. Nobody will want to listen. Why? Because this is interest. Whether it's taking us to doom, we don't care. That is where we belong. So please, let's stop that and see how we can move our lives forward. We're all affected, whether you're in the United States or live, whatever, you know. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Madam Key. Before I bring in, I see Dr. Lara Saleko, your hand is up, but just hold on 1 second. Dr. Bugaje, I know you want us to look holistically at the whole process, but you must have a pause when it comes to the judiciary. I mean, what do you have any? I mean, look at what Madam Key went through in the court, the whole alleged bribery, wanting her to pay to do this. How is the Supreme Court different?
Well, I have no particular access to Supreme Court. I'm not in a position to evaluate them, but I can say very generally that institutions in Nigeria are generally very weak. And by weak, I mean they do not deliver, and they are vulnerable to corruption. And this is not just the judiciary. All the institutions, the National Assembly, the executive arm of government, ministries. I mean, this is everybody's experience. It's not something that you need any particular special access to know. There are so many cases where, you know, people have bribed the judiciary and gotten their own thing. Of course, it's not something I can go to court and perhaps prove beyond reasonable doubt as would be required. But I mean, experiences of people when they narrate to you what they go through, I mean, it's quite shocking. It's quite unpleasant. And this again brings me to the same point I have made. We have got to fix our leadership recruitment process so that we can get at the top of leadership people who are upright, with knowledge and character, and committed to fixing this country. When we get these kind of people, right from the appointment of the chief judge, and appointment of judges everywhere, things will begin to change, because then there will be a criteria, there will be standards, there will be values that will be associated with what we're doing. At the moment, I can't find any. And this is why we're where we are, and we may continue to be, perhaps even getting worse if we do not address this particular issue. But let me also make one extra point. Part of what is delaying the realization of this is that we don't have an elite consensus in our country. The elite in Nigeria are pulling in different directions. We do not, when you put us all together, we don't seem to have a consensus as to where we want our country to be in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And this, without this vision, without this consensus, then we end up just abusing each other while the country is really going down the drain. And I see it as a height of folly, for me to be attacking, people based on regional or tribal or even religious sentiments when my country is actually burning. We all have a common interest, whatever our religion, whatever our tribes, whatever our, in fact, it has become a global issue now. Look at how the world is taking the issue of climate change, with all the differences in the different parts of the world, China, Russia, America, Ukraine. We are all united, and everybody is, ready to play its own bit, because if you don't, the whole globe is going to be in crisis, and you are not going to escape it. And that's the way we should see our country. You don't have to like the other people, but you have to have the sense to know. Practically, you cannot enjoy life, you cannot live through a quality of life that you are aspiring to if you do not agree with your neighbor, to be able to keep the peace, to be able to keep the street clean, to be able to do what you need to do. And once you are able to do that, you can have a very interesting and high quality life. So where is our sense? Where is our knowledge? Where is our vision? And we are still busy just insulting, abusing each other, and talking in ways that really will shock you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Usman. And we are going to the second hour now, and we should be rounding up this meeting in any minute. However, I'm going to just take a question from Dr. Salako Larry, very quickly.
Yeah.
And then
well, I am not going to ask questions. I'm just going to make some comments, some remark for us to think about. Dr. Usman said that we have weak institutions, that nothing is working. It is because we don't have leaders. Our leaders don't see themselves as Nigerians. They see themselves as Hausa, Fulani, Igbo, Yoruba, and all sorts of things like that. So, and if we don't see ourselves as Nigerians first, before we see ourselves as the ethnic that we belong to, then there is not going to be any institution we can build. Or otherwise, we can say, I can say I'm a Yoruba man, and I'm also a Nigerian. Maybe we have to change the narrative from the coercive, the way we, the military force the unitary system on us. If I am a Yoruba man, and I'm doing well as a Yoruba man, I can as well do well as a Nigerian. But this way, the way we are organized now, we want everybody to be a Nigerian first, and people are not thinking to be a Nigerian first. They want to be their ethnic person first. So we have to think about that psychologically, culturally, and look at countries around the world. We were given independence by United Kingdom. In United Kingdom, there are about 4 countries there. You will see Scotland representing themselves in Wales, representing themselves in a national, international football tournament, different from English. They are still running themselves. How we ought to now? They run parliamentary system. They are not running presidential system. presidential system is only successful in United States, the way they are brought up. Most successful countries run parliamentary system. We have to think and rethink. Our country is really going through trouble. So we have to think from the grass, from the fundamentals. So I will round up my comment by saying that our problem is from the foundation, and we need to address it from the foundation.
I agree. And that is the position Dr. Usman has said, who himself is a former House of Representative member, speaking from the insider's point of view. If the system is corroded and there's need for a total overhaul. And I couldn't agree more. Jude, quickly before we round up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the panelists. This has been very educative to me. I'm thankful to be here. I have a question. I think it's mostly directed at Dr. Usman Bugaji, but everyone else can chime in. One thing that I'm taking away from here is the fact that what Dr. Usman said. He said that we need to fix the process that brings in the elected officials in Nigeria. And, here in the United States, when people are interested in fixing a process, anything, they go through the elected officials, through the legislators. And the legislatures and elected officials are very much interested in actually fixing the process and making it much more better. But then my question is, how do we fix the process that brings in our elected officials in Nigeria, knowing fully well that the elected officials might not be open to actually fixing that process, since they have a vast majority and capacity of actually ensuring that that process is fixed, lays on their shoulders. So what's your recommendation to Nigerians as to how we can fix this process?
Just to add up to what you said, Jude, especially when you run counter to the interest of the politician, are they more inclined to want to fix that process? I want you to speak on this, Dr. Usman, and Prince, you can then round it up.
Very good. Now, let me first say that this is an excellent question, because if we want to really get practical, this is the kind of questions that we need to ask. And I have, myself and a few colleagues, have confronted this question. Now, the idea of going to the parliament to ask the parliamentarians that we have today to amend the constitution to introduce criteria for leadership is dead on arrival. I don't expect the way the current parliament is constituted, they will. So the path to go is not the legal path. The path to go is the political path. And it's doable. For what I know, and I hope Prince Adewale can help correct me if I'm not getting it right. For what I know, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has given every political party, every registered political party, the power to design or craft its own constitution. Right. This constitution has to take into consideration not only the federal constitution, but also the Electoral Act and all existing laws. And what I know, the weakest link is the primaries, because that's where, the actual point of entry of credible, competent candidates. And that's where they throw away and then money takes over and crooks and criminals find their way there. So how do we stop them doing that? One way to do it, for what I know, there are three ways to run by the electoral law to run primaries. You can either do it direct primary, where you get card-carrying members to line up at their wards and elect their own candidate. And these votes are collated, and whoever gets the highest becomes the candidate of the party for that particular post. The second way to do it is the delegate system, which we are very familiar with, Congresses are held. Usually, the Constitution will show the formula of selection of the delegates, and these delegates will now go to elect the candidates of the party among those who are aspiring. The third way is a consensus. Now, that consensus is there are no details, and that's an advantage because it means that if stakeholders within the party can come and say, this is, the consensus, then you can. Now, no party again is stopped from putting criteria for its own candidature. For example, they can say, for you to contest for governorship on this particular platform, you must come with 2 or 3 distinct criteria. One, educational, you must have at least a degree and show that you have got an experience of 5 years or 10 years of working anywhere. This is one criteria. You are free to do so. If people don't want it, they go to other parties that have no criteria. You can also say that the person contesting for this office must, come with certain character. I mean, there are ways you can verify, there are ways you can, put, even if it's a minimum qualification. If you are opening an account in the bank, you do have reference, don't you? I mean, this is just an account. This is your own money that you're putting in the bank. But the bank does not want to deal with people whose character they don't know. And therefore, they would want somebody to recommend them, somebody they can perhaps hold on to. So you can introduce a modified form of this so that you can have an idea of the character. You can add one more, qualification. Now, if we're able to have a party that can do this, it can be the SDP, if Prince Adewale wants us to try that, and you can actually register a new party. And for the laws that I know, and this may have changed, if you put forward to INEC your application for a new party and they do not respond to you, meaning they did not say anything negative and they just kept quiet, I think the law says that after 1 month or after a period of time, you are already a registered party. You just proceed. So it then means that it's not so difficult to register a party, and we can come and put all these criteria. By the time you put this criteria together, then you can draw the attention of Nigerians that, hey, wait a minute, here is now a party with a criteria. So competent people can come. And if the youth of this country are sensible, this is the party for them, to really, for once, get some credible leadership. They can go around this party. We may not get the president in the first trial. We may not even get a governor. But if we are able to get even 1/3 of some of these parliaments in the state, or 1/4 of parliaments, of members of these kind of a caliber of people in the National Assembly, I can assure you things would begin to change.
Thank you, sir. I think you just took the word out of my mouth. And I've always had issue with the fact that the Constitution states a direct process and an indirect process, and most of these political parties opt to go for the indirect process that allows them to hide the whole process in a smoke screen room, select 3 or 4, 5, 10 people to decide who the party's presidential flag bearer will be. I think it's a flawed system. The indirect process should be done away with, and let the party system just go through the direct process where all members of the party are allowed to vote for their party's flag bearer. That's how I think it should be. But before I bring in Prince Adebayo to have the last word, I want to quickly, Nicholas, I know you have your hand, but you want to just clear something, just say it briefly, because we need to get out of here. It's almost 11 o'clock in Nigeria. We need to go to sleep.
No problem at all. Thank you. Again, I really thank everybody, because this is really, I can bet that I'm the youngest person here, so I'm learning from everyone here. To Dr. Prince, the clarity was when he said the Dati case versus Tinubu, and I just wanted to remind him that we're still, Nigerians in general are still arguing if there is a constitutional matter. So to the average Nigerian, currently it's the situation of the 25% and the double nomination, which we clearly saw on INEC. So every Nigerian is aware of this. And then just to clarify on that GRV, he didn't contest under the PDP. He actually withdrew from the party, just to clarify with Mrs. Patience, I believe. So yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to learn.
Thank you. Prince Adebayo, please just say the last word on this matter.
Okay.
And let's wrap
Well,
it up.
You now understand why I spent a lot of time in 2003 going around for Dr. Bugaje to be our speaker. So, so people like
yeah, it makes sense.
Yes. So even though I was not in the house, but you ask people who are in the house, I went around because of what had happened to Naba, and we thought that we should continue with somebody who's that strong. And then we were going around, you know, it was no longer a National Assembly issue because we knew the implication of not having a strong National Assembly. And eventually, you know, it's one requirement that in Nigeria, they may think that if you're a plumber, you are a better speaker than somebody who actually studied political science. That's for another day.
You sure somebody will not take you to court?
So you see that. So we now start holding seminars on things which we can actually do inside the institution that is meant to do it. So that is the problem of Nigeria. And what I can say generally is that, and for Nicholas, is that the Constitution is a complex document. So it is not only one issue that is constitutional. In fact, almost every issue in an election matter is constitutional. So once they say you are not elected, you are not elected. It's a constitutional requirement. So anything to determine whether somebody is duly elected or not, there are only two documents that are relevant: the Constitution and the Electoral Act. So every contest in a tribunal over an election is constitutional. So it's not only the 25% that you pick out of it. Every other issue is constitutional as well. Now, the issue for us in politics is that the politics required in a republic. When the Romans had their republic, they assumed that the average person is well educated about the republic. I'm not saying you be a professor of physics. You can be a professor of physics and a political illiterate. But what it means is that even if you are a Meshai, or you are a cobbler, or you are an Uber driver, that you are basically aware of what's going on in the republic, and you are honest, you want your country to succeed, and you are participating in a political party in order to organize similar-minded people so that you can go and convince the majority to give you the mandate. So the political parties are the weakest links. And unless you get the political parties right, Supreme Court, or if the political parties are right, what they will do for you is that they are going to help you to select people of integrity, that their worst behavior is still qualified for leadership. And that if you have 3, 4, 5 political parties, each one has gone through a process of giving you somebody who could be president without regrets. But you're only looking for the best among the rest of them. But the problem we're having in the country today is that the political parties are not looking for the best. They're looking for the richest. They're looking for the person who can give them the most money. So in the end, you cannot now go back to the court to cry about something that you had a choice to do well in your political party. And I found out that even many people who say they want justice from the Supreme Court, their definition of justice is that their candidate must declare winner. So it is not everyone saying, I want the judiciary to be right. I keep asking them, if you want judiciary to be right, what are your criteria? They will only say, when my own person wins, judiciary is right. So in a democracy, every vote is equal. You cannot delegitimize those who voted for Atiku. I will not, for the life of me. But those who voted for him are also, they are also entitled to claim patriotism. They're entitled to claim they love the country. They're entitled to claim that his mandate is correct. So the court is not going to go into all of that. So today's headline or theme relates to the proceedings in court, whether someone should be sworn in. So my intervention is tailored along that route. But I'm available for another day when we want to discuss the general philosophical paradigm of our republic. And what kind of republic we want to be. That would be minimum a 3-hour, 4-hour discussion so that we take the issue one by one. But today, I can conclude that what is going on in Nigeria is going according to the law. There is no attempt by the judiciary or the federal government to cheat anybody. What is happening is that we had an election that was ruined right from the primaries by the discipline of politicians and political parties, and INEC also contributed to the problem in the general election. So the politician already came with do or die affair, not to play fair, not to play square. And then when they got to INEC, and when I mean INEC, I don't mean Yakubu. I mean that INEC starts from that core member. If you examine INEC very well, you will find out that some core member who are just ad hoc staff of INEC committed more crimes than INEC commissioner. You will also find that many people went to apply to be INEC workers, ad hoc workers, not to help INEC for free and fair election, but to come and carry out their partisan intention in INEC. So when you put all of this together, the institution now has gotten so weakened by the cultural predilection to cheating. So in the end, we'll come back after this election season to now look at how do we, as a country, have a consensus. For example, one of the consensus that we have is in our national pledge. You know, if you look at that promise, any citizen who can say that he keeps that national pledge in everything he decides, in everything he does with relation to the country, that he keeps that, I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend her unity, to uphold her honor and glory, so help me God. If you can recite that to yourself and you don't violate it, then you are qualified to comment on other people. But if you recite it and look at where you don't follow it, then you can start from yourself.
Examining yourself, right?
Yes,
looking
now
inward.
comment on other people.
Yes, but let quickly before we let you go, I wanted to just Mr. Okocha asked that: are we discounting the role money is playing in our polity? Yeah, for example, in the judiciary, is money not going to? It's not. Should we not be concerned that money might play a factor?
Let me just say something about judiciary. People need to understand. Judges generally are not people who want to be wealthy. There are a few of them who are misfit, and they are misfit because of the process of selection. And Dr. Bugaji has told us that our leadership, when we mean leadership selection, it doesn't mean leadership in only in the villa or National Assembly. Leadership even in the public services, leadership in the armed forces, in law enforcement, leadership in political parties, leadership in churches and mosques, leadership in town union, leadership on university faculties and everywhere. So leadership selection here is that we don't select the leader according to the job description and according to the ethics of what the person needs to do. We just say, oh, put my townsperson there, or I like this person, and things like that. Or we do a favor to people. So as a result of that, every institution that has been created to solve a problem becomes a problem on its own. So, and then you now create another institution to correct that institution that also gets bad, and you create another one till you have a multiplicity of institutions that the people get tired of them. So if I had been elected president, I would have removed ICPC, I would have removed EFCC, I will go back to the police. You get the police right, you get the police right. DSS out. I will remove all of these people and have a police that works. I'll have the military intelligence, I'll have NIA. That's all. I don't need more than that. But the civil defense, go. All of them go. Road safety, go and join police. All of you out. So you streamline the institution, and then you put leadership. So if you have people like MD Yusuf, If I can find a modern day MD Yusuf to be made IG of police, I can find Kamsalem, modern day Kamsalem. I don't need any other institution like that because they will do the job the way it should be done. So this is the problem. No, issue of money. Just some judges, most judges trying to follow the law, but the public don't understand the law. That's one problem. Second is that, like in the case of my sister, Patience Key, her case was dead on arrival because either the competence or the ethical compromise of the lawyer by not filing the case within time. So in election matter, if somebody says the court has no jurisdiction because the matter was filed out of time, the court will say, I don't have jurisdiction. So if I don't have jurisdiction, I cannot even sit to comment on the case at all. So, and even if the court had gone ahead out of passion to comment on the case, the appellate court will say, originally you had no jurisdiction to start with. And when you will see, in the course of this petition that people are talking about now, you will see that there are, if you follow the case of Madukolu and Ekemdele, which we use for jurisdiction, certain things put inside the petition, in some petition, because people like to overplead in Nigeria. Some of the grounds they put in the petition will rob the court of some jurisdiction. Because if you accuse somebody of a crime before an election tribunal, you have created a problem for your petition. Because I did that case against Ahamba when he was representing Buhari in Buhari versus Yaradua. He made some allegations that were criminal in nature. And we told the court, these allegations are criminal in nature, and you are a tribunal. So Ahamba had to come back and say, I delete every criminal allegation, but I deleted all of them. They were mixed together with the other part of the petition. So eventually go and read the judgment of the court. So what I'm saying generally is that the court is following its own procedure. And in the US Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade divides America into two. People, if you say you want to remove Roe v. Wade, the people on the left will say we don't agree. If you sustain Roe v. Wade, people on the right will not agree. And institutions fail everywhere. Look at America. When it comes to immigration reform, it's a very controversial issue. The Congress has failed on it. Supreme Court gives some judgment that don't make sense out of it. If you look at slavery, Dred Scott case, Supreme Court failed the American people on the issue of the right. If you look at the 14th Amendment, civil rights, and the Civil Rights Act, every Congress is worse than the one before. Each time they come, they will remove some leg of the Civil Rights Act. They keep removing it, getting worse by the day. So when it comes to election reform in America, the Congress has failed to do election reform. McCain was campaigning for publicly funded election because money determines American election, not your qualification. But they are failing that one. So if you keep talking, and at a time in the UK legal system failed them. They went to the EU, they came back, but the legal system failed them because they were using the archaic High Court of the Parliament as their court. At the end of the day, what happened? The UK learned from Nigeria and went and created a Supreme Court for the UK now. So it is not only everything in our system that is wrong. The problem with our system is that we have a very good system, but they require ethics. They require honesty. They require integrity. They require loyalty to the country. And these are things that are scarce in Nigeria. Money is not scarce. Getting PVC is not scarce.
Character is scarce.
Getting people to talk the truth when it doesn't favor them is saying something consistently, whether your party is involved, your ethnic group is involved, your religion is involved, and saying another thing when another person is involved. So I always ask people, if I, Adewale Adebayo, was the one declared, do you think SDP people will be frowning their faces the way they're frowning now?
I'm sure they will be jumping up.
Everything that happened in the election happened the way it happened. And when Yakubu wanted to pronounce Tinubu, he mistakenly pronounced Peter Gregory Obi.
Peter Gregory, yes.
You think that Labour people will let you change it and say, oh no, it was a mistake? They won't let you. So if you have pronounced Atiku, you will see the party now will start from Genye to Jeddah to Dubai. Everybody will be celebrating all over. So in the end, these institutions are not meant to make your dreams come true. No, these institutions are meant to regulate our excesses. So where your rise stops, the other person's rise begins. So what we can do is, if you want the institution to work, you will let every candidate run the way Bugaje ran in the primaries, the way Key ran in the primaries, the way I ran in general election, where you cannot, all the votes that I got, majority of them, they didn't record them. But even the one they gave to me, none of them will say I bought votes. You cannot say, when I did my party primaries, that I gave delegates ₦1 given to any delegate. No. You cannot say that I employ talk anywhere, or I talk about ethnicity or religion, or I went to religious center to be campaigning, or I went to, no. Even when I went to religious center, I always reminded them, don't say someone of your religion to be the president. That's not what God says. God says a righteous man. Therefore, that righteous man may not be from your church, may not be from your mosque. So be there. So if we all go like that, and when you are in court also, you have to be honest. And it doesn't speak well for a country. And this is the first country in the world where two people will go to court and say, I'm the winner, I want my mandate. Another person will go to court, I want my mandate. So if you remove the person wrongly declared, quote and unquote, the two petitioners, at least one of them is a charlatan by coming to the court to say, I want my mandate. So no country can suffer that. It's usually that one person is declared and one other person whom the opposition themselves agree is the person who won. But now in this case, if Sowore had been interested in it, he could have gone to court and said, I Sowore, I got the highest. So I think on all of us, both the INEC, both the political parties, the media, and everybody, and the opposition, all of us have to realize that since we went to the British and said we want to be independent, and 3 years later, we said we want to be a republic, it means that we have to now behave like people who have stakes. And we have to be very serious-minded, very honest, and to take ourselves seriously and to be taken seriously. So everything we do should not be for temporary advantage, for sessional advantage. And when we are engaging our institutions, we should not condemn them or praise them according to how favorable their decision is to us. Don't say, the court is only honest if my person wins. The election is only fair if my party wins. Complain the way I'm complaining about things that are wrong, including things done by my party people. And my party has not been too happy with me, some members, that why do you keep embarrassing us? I keep saying that some people in SDP, also collected money from PDP, collected money from Labour, collected from APC, and threw away some of the opportunities. So don't come and start crying here. And you see it's like that across. So long and short of this is that the system is porous, the system is bad, but when you compare it to every other thing we do, whether we are selecting people in armed forces, whether we are giving promotion to people in the armed forces, in civil service, whether we are writing JAM, we are writing WAEC, every other thing we do, we go to bank to do transactions, we like to cheat. So a society of 200 million people who wake up in the morning praying to God for a miracle of an opportunity to cheat, they cannot just become honest on election day. Because the general, in every other thing, that day that Yakubu declared Tinubu, if it was true that it was rigged, it wasn't the only thing rigged in the country that day. Even the selection of bishops in churches, even my own church, they had to ban the translation of bishops because they found out that some bishops who are posted to one diocese will be using money to lobby to be posted to a diocese that is richer. That's inside the church. People go to Mecca, the holy Mecca, to go and discuss bribery there. You had one person saying that the head of EFCC went to Mecca to be asking for $2 million bribe inside the holy land where you go to stone the devil. They carry their own devilry there to go and defeat the devil there. So what I'm telling you is that all of us now, we need an ethical revolution, but it must start with compiling with the truth, whether it favors you or not.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prince Adewale Adebayo. Like you said, we are not going to conclude this conversation tonight. We're going to have to take on this matter again, barring any eventualities. It is bound to happen that Mr. Tinubu will be sworn in about 9 days, and the tribunal will continue to hear the matter. And we may not get a decision on this till the end of the year. So we're just going to have to wait. And
we will get a decision before Christmas. By law, we will get a decision before Christmas.
Okay.
By law, we must get, Court of Appeal must give us a decision by August. So
and
it
then
is
go to the
possible
Supreme
that
Court.
after that one, somebody may not appeal, because I usually don't automatically appeal. My clients know me for that. If I take a matter to court and the court rules on it, I will tell the client, if you want to appeal, go and meet another lawyer. But based on my own understanding, the court is right. Even if the court is not right, the other court will hold like this. So that because the more you appeal, the more you clog the court against other appeal that have merit. If everybody just appeal, like people accuse me, why don't you go and file a petition? I said, if all the 18 of us file, there will be no justice, because the court will not have even space to hear the case of the 6 months to lapse. So in reality, if they appeal to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court must give its decision in November. Because we only have 50 days. And the other person, after losing, whoever loses in the Court of Appeal, has less than 1 month to file appeal.
To take it to the appellate court.
After filing it, he has maximum 60 days for the court to give judgment.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much, Prince Adebayo. Prince Adebayo is a former presidential candidate from the Social Democratic Party, and is also the founder of Kaftan Television. A special thanks to Dr. Usman Bugaje. He's a former member House of Representatives and special advisor to former President Atiku Abubakar. And he also ran for president this past election. Thank you, sir. And thanks to Honorable Patience Ndidi. She's a former presidential aspirant also, and a former chair of Nigerian in the Diaspora Organization USA. I want to say thank you to Dr. Robosa Apopolo, who is a social justice advocate in New York State. I want to thank you all. You all have made us much smarter than we came in. We want to appreciate your insights, your contribution. The way you articulate them makes the matter much easier. Our goal here is to douse attention. And I think a lot of questions have been answered. Some of us who came here very hyped with the words of Dr. Bugaje and Prince, kind of succeeded in calming that tension down. And that is the goal today. So I want to thank you. I want to thank all of you. Thank you, Madam Key. We are going to have this meeting again, maybe after the tribunal comes out with his decision. Whatever that outcome will be, we will discuss it at that time. I want to thank our folks all over the world who are dialing, those in Nigeria, in Europe, in Africa. Thank you. I know it's very late where you are. It's been a wonderful time. Thank you all, and have a wonderful night. This meeting is now over.
God bless Nigeria.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
It has been a lively moment.
Best wishes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, which is good. Very good.